Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first user submission or subscriber submission for replay analysis here with me, Ezek Hydra. So what we're going to be doing today is watching James play a few rounds, or rather one round actually, with his Imperial fleet. I like it. He's rocking some stuff very similar to what I like to rock. This is awesome. And we're going to have a little bit of a natter about how he's doing basically. Now, what I'm not going to do is focus on all of those tiny little, oh, that button could have been pressed a tiny bit quicker, etc, etc. We all know that there's technical things that we could tweak like that. So we're going to try not to make this too backseat gaming and talk more about what you're doing and why you're doing it and maybe what could be done to improve. And I really hope this is useful to you, and I hope this is interesting to those of you watching. So I love the fact you've gone for a retribution. I think pretty much this fleet is one I've rocked pretty much exactly a few times. We've got a few swords, that's good. We've got a couple of escorts on the left that are currently awaiting some instructions, that's fine. Or are they moving out? I'm not even sure. And we're targeting enemy engines right now, which is cool, Now, engines can't be targeted from the front by weapons, that is. They can with lightning strikes and other things of that nature. But I like the fact you're doing this so early. It sort of signifies that, you know, you've got some of your priorities set straight. You're better than me, because I always forget to do that, so I like it. Against Chaos, it kind of depends what ships they have. I think there would be room to discuss perhaps generators if it's going to be a prolonged engagement, if they're going to be doing a lot of kiting, but then engines is perhaps top priority, because once you take an engine down, well, your macros are going to be doing a huge amount of damage. So I think that's probably a good shout. I've also noticed you've gone for the brace for impact for the starting stance for your fleet, which I think makes sense to me, because I would be aiming to ram as soon as possible, and then after you've done your ram and you're pretty sure you're not going to get enough momentum to get another sufficient ram, then change to reload. I think the alternative would be to approach and reload or lock on and then change to brace for impact closer. Lock on, I'm not really sure. You're going to be trying to get right in their face, but lock on would be for me one of those situations where if you need that extra little bit of range, I'd go for it, but otherwise I think reload is going to be pretty useful. Probe coming out here from the filthy heretic on the enemy team, so that's pretty cool. We're going to see if you catch it, because I see we got a little escort there running off ahead. We're going to see what happens. Flagship's moving presumably out of the way so it doesn't get scanned. That's nice and good. And we're going to move on up here and see, are you going to catch it? Looks close. Yeah, you got that in the bag. You've got it. Nailed it. Does look like you're not running the silent running perk as well, the speed increase for silent running. Personally, that's one of my absolute favourites. Now, what I have observed already is you're clicking for the bottom left for your turn and your thrust ability. Now, I'm going to tell you now, later on, that's going to hurt you. The ability to use the E and Q hotkeys is probably, and I'm going to make a video on this soon, one of the most important things you can do to improve your micro in this game. If you're going to do anything to try and improve, do that first. It is so important, because the amount of time it takes to click down there, you often lose the opportunity, or that sort of special moment. Now, I'm not quite sure what the flagship's doing, if it's going to come back for a swing around. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe it was just moving there to be out of position, to get out of the way of the scanner perhaps. That's fine. Presumably those are torpedoes as well from the movement pattern. No, we have some aircraft coming in now. What I often end up doing in this situation is kiting, and it seems that you're at the moment going head on, and this is something I've wanted to try a few times, because I think you can probably take down one wave with relative ease. Looks like you might even capture that point on the way through, and that's one taken down already. Again though, I think you're going to have a lot more luck pressing that Q button to boost. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. Now, still got the torpedo volley. They're being held onto right now. You've spied the enemy flagship, and it seems that you're taking a bit of priority to head towards that, which is cool. One unfortunate friendly ram, which, you know, it happens. One unit ran out of thruster just before the other, so it happens, a collision. Now, are we going to torpedo here before? Looks like we're just ramming. It's not the end of the world, but that would have been twice the damage there. So you got a nice, it looks like it's going to end up about 300 damage from the ram. That probably would have been, maybe even going for the melter there in that position. It makes a huge difference, because the enemy can only put out so many fires. The amount of damage a melter stacks up as well. If you can break the morale of that unit too, then you're basically forcing him to decide, do I want to try and get my leadership back, or do I want to try and put out these fires? You can't normally have both, so those melter torpedoes are pretty rough and pretty good. Now, all I can say thus far is perhaps firing the torpedoes earlier with some of these ships when they were more lined up might have been more effective, but you're doing really well to micromanage these a little bit and try and get them lined up. There we go. It does seem though that torps aren't the top priority right now, but that's fine. Let's have a look. So ramming for me against a Chaos fleet would be, you know, 100% what I'd be looking to do, because you've got more frontal armour than them by quite a bit, so you're going to do 40% more damage. That's not even taking into consideration the brace for impact. So taking into consideration brace for impact, you're going to be doing something ridiculous like 80% more damage than you'll be taking. Might be more like somewhere between 60 and 80, but that's something I'd be definitely looking to do, like prioritise getting your nose into them. But looking pretty good. Like you're doing well here by managing. Again, I think you're going to have so much more time if you use the Q and E button, just to a quick E, then click, then okay, hotkey for the torpedo is T. Doing that, I don't use a torpedo hotkey. I really should, but I think that's going to make this whole process a lot easier. What it's going to mean as well is you spend less time per ship. Investing in sort of what to do, which is going to give you more time to think about, you know, what decisions you need to be making. A fairly fortunate ram there from him on his own ship, and yes, another torpedo volley coming in here. Does seem that the Chaos player's sitting there taking it. Oh, that was painful. See how much torpedoes do there? Absolutely nuts. So this one looks like a fairly smooth and clean win. We can see the bottom left-hand corner of the map's being contested. In the top right, we have the escort sat up there. I'm not entirely sure what their role is right now. I think the point capture in the bottom right that was not taken, I probably would have prioritised that a little bit sooner. It's, you know, it's one of those things where combat breaks out, you're going to forget everything you need to do. But I would always be, whenever you get a couple of seconds free, looking into what on the map you could try and take control of. But of course, when fighting is going on, that's a lot easier said than done. So thus far, looking pretty chaotic with just units everywhere, and that's sometimes how these fights go. But your broadsides on many of these occasions doing work against both of the ships. What I generally say is try and picture if you want to prioritise ramming or broadsiding and do one or the other. So I mean, in this position here, your ships are in a wonderful position where both of their broadsides can shoot, but then again, doing ramming damage is going to do considerably more damage. So it's a bit of a decision to make. Are you going to capture that, or are we just stepping outside? It does look like, yeah, at a point decapped, but not capped. So it does seem that you might need to work a tiny bit on that awareness of what's going on the rest of the map, because I see your other escorts haven't had any orders for a while, so that might be something to think about. But again, once you get the hang of hotkeys, you're going to find yourself having a lot more time for stuff like that. And honestly, those two buttons are the most important in the game. Q and E, by far, by an absolute mile. So much so that I'll make a video on it, even though I feel like this video has primarily been about that. But really like what you're doing with the ships at the moment. It's looking good. The fight's gone pretty well for you. A few boarding actions here and there seem to have been done. Haven't focused any single given ship with boarding actions, which is something I need to try and work at as well. Like, I can notice all of their crews seem to be down to yellow, so they've all been knocked down a stage, which is great. I do wonder sometimes if it's more effective to try and focus one ship with all of the boarding actions, and or maybe to spread it out. I'm not even particularly sure, but that was looking pretty good and pretty nicely done. Loads of ships left. Micro warp jump might actually be a back off of cooldown now, so what I'd be looking to do, maybe if you don't need to retreat and you know you can afford to use it for offensive powers, use it to reposition, use it to head straight into the nose of another ship. The mass you have combined with the armour value at the front, especially against Chaos, you should just be always looking to ram with Imperial ships. But looking pretty good, pretty smooth. But once again, I know I'm repeating a little bit, but the camera is purely focused on the action, and I think if you were to just close your eyes for, I don't know, 3 seconds every now and again, not much would really change in this fight. You know, you wouldn't really be missing anything. And what I mean by that is, if you were to take those 3 seconds and spend them doing what we're just doing now, you know, you'll have more points in this situation should the fight go badly. Obviously, this fight's gone quite well, and that's great. But I think it's possible that if you were losing this fight and equal attention was being put on it, then you might find that the enemy is able to sort of take advantage of you via the point system. But so far, looking good. I think, honestly, just make that one change and you're going to find the game a lot easier all of a sudden. I love these little rams on escorts. Best way to take them down. Good. Yeah, I like what I'm seeing, though. It looks fun, looks good. I'd like to see it against some of the other factions, perhaps. I think against some of the, let's say, stealth factions, see how you play. I think that would be a really interesting test. But well played, very enjoyable. I hope this has been useful for people watching. If there were things you think that I missed that you would change, let me know. But priority, I think, those Q&E buttons, and you will find everything else just sort of falls into place. Take care, my friend, and see you soon.